Welcome to the Cyber Business Podcast, where we feature top founders and entrepreneurs and share their inspiring stories. Now, let's get started with the show.
Matthew Connor here, host of the Cyber Business Podcast. Today, we're joined by Bryan Tomczyk, Cybersecurity Engineer at GP Strategies. Bryan, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Matt. Happy to be here.
Happy to have you. Before we get too far in, a quick word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by cyberlinks.com. That's cyberlynx.com. Do you know if a hacker's in your system? Most people and most companies don't until it's too late and the hacker's already done damage. A hacker's job is to bypass your security, so companies need a way of knowing when someone's gotten past their security. That's where Cyberlinks comes in. We've partnered with the best cybersecurity companies in the world to be able to provide our clients with the best solutions at the best prices. So whether it's managed SIEM, SOC, EDR, MDR, XDR, you name it, we'll help you find the best solutions at the best prices. Find out more at cyberlinks.com. That's cyberlynx.com. And now back to our show. Bryan, for those who aren't familiar, can you tell us about GP Strategies and your role there?
GP Strategies is deep down, we're a training company. We do a lot of professional services. Most anything that a company will ask, we will figure out a way to do. But at our core, we're a training company. We are a wholly owned subsidiary of a company called Learning Technologies Group, which is one of the largest training companies in the world by market share. And I'm on the security team. So I spend a lot of time working directly with, our whole organization, but specifically our senior IT and infrastructure folks, making sure that the systems at GP Strategies are secure.
I love it. I think one of my favorite kind of topics when it comes to security, since that is your bread and butter, is this idea that kind of security is now everybody's job. It used to be that it was your job, that's Bryan's job, not my job. My job is whatever my job is, right? And I like this concept. But how do you guys implement that, and how are you going about that? Because it's one thing to say it, like security is everybody's job. It's another one to actually implement it and getting people to buy in on that.
A lot of what we do in particular is we work with the end users, especially those who have been compromised or the various groups that have been compromised at various points. Unfortunately, we live in a world where you're going to have somebody compromised in your environment no matter what. There's no way around it. And so when those situations happen, or when somebody is suspected of being compromised, then we work with those users to explain how, why, but then also in other places, such as, I'm in a meeting with some HR folks about some new systems they're wanting to put in. At that point, we also bring up security. We start talking about, why it's important to think about it at the beginning. Secure by design is, I think, kind of the industry standard at this point, but not everybody really understands that. And not everybody tries to bring security in at the beginning. We don't always get to bring security in at the beginning, but we're always trying to bring security in at the beginning, So, one of my things I do, this goes on to one of the other possible topics, is I do a lot of suppliers reviews. So when our customers need when our users need a new system, say it's a new AI software or a new, procurement package, or even just an alternative to Acrobat Reader, our security team reviews every piece of software or service that comes through and that allows us to have very early on conversations with the users who are requesting those things. Here's why we're taking all this time. We really have to make sure that people understand that security, and we really have to all be advocates for it, or people think we're wasting their time. And then we start becoming viewed as a roadblock, and we don't want to be a roadblock. Our job is to enable. Our job is to make our users, make possible for them to securely do their job. And they don't always understand why. So that's just where we need to educate. The advantage is, and the thing that I love the most, is when you find that person who gets it, no matter where they are in the organization, you find that person that gets it, and they now become an advocate on that team. And now that team is also security focused, and then they'll tell somebody else. And so it's a very organic grassroots approach. The more people you can, I don't want to say convince, but the more people that you can get to understand the importance of security, and that doesn't have to get in the way necessarily, the better off you are on every project that you can get into.
Yeah.
Um, and also that leads to people people want, like, people really like the idea of cyber. I see a lot of people, how do I get into cyber? Well, take whatever job you're doing right now and just do a security focus on it. When we were talking earlier, I mentioned that I went to my first security event 25 years ago, back in the summer of 2000. That's when I started being security focused. It took another 15 years for me to get into cyber as a full-time position, but you can be security focused without being full-time cyber. And I think that's where we all need to be, not just in our business lives, but in our personal lives too.
Yeah.
Making sure that you're not writing your passwords down on a notepad on, on your kitchen table or whatever. Making sure that the same security practices we have in the business, we should have at home in our personal lives. We can then make your grandma a security advocate, make your neighbor a security advocate. That's not necessarily helping your job at work, but it's helping them in their environments. And in all honesty, the more secure the whole world is, the better we all are off. The less threats, the more hardened our worlds are, the harder the bad actors have to work.
That's right.
And they'll figure out a way, but we want to make sure we make it difficult for them.
Well, I think we're already seeing that though, right? I mean, we're seeing that with, let's say endpoint detection and response, right? Most organizations now have gone beyond just the simple, antivirus and they've moved to EDR, and the endpoint has become a much harder, place to compromise. And so now we're seeing social engineering taking the forefront, and because you know what, it's a whole lot easier to trick somebody, to con them into thinking, oh, this is IT calling, whomever, and oh, this is Microsoft, whatever it might be, and get them to click on something, go somewhere, and now get their email, login, they've stolen their credentials, boom, and they're in, right? Maybe. So I think that what you're saying about being security minded and focused, I think one, if you rewind to like COVID, where ransomware kind of came out, it went from something that you and I knew about, and we're like, preach, shaking our fists at everybody, like there's so many threats out there, and everybody's like, yeah, yeah, whatever. And now suddenly people are now, I think, appreciating the fact that, you know what, it can hit anybody anytime, and we need to be more careful. I think that the challenge is getting people to be more cautious about the things and be more, I don't know, paranoid, right? Like, but there's see, and this is just balance. And I think this is where technology comes in, right? So if you're looking at the bad guy coming after, let's just pick on some poor little bastard named Joey. So poor Joey sitting there at his keyboard. And if let's say you've got this, we'll go email, right? Because I think between the social engineering and email, those are the two places that I think are attracting the most attention from bad guys, because they're the easiest targets right now,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so you'll see that Joey can easily be tricked, because if you're secure, let's say you're using a security email gateway, you're using the SIG, and it's filtering out a bunch of stuff, but some of the stuff goes into quarantine, some of the stuff, gets through. And so Joey is still really the only line of defense. If your
Mm-hmm.
security, if your email security isn't really going through and being able to see that, oh, hey, you know what, this is, a just like an immediate little Wix site that somebody threw together. It's a valid site, and it hasn't been flagged as anything yet, so the email gateway lets it right through. Now, Joey, if it gets past the email gateway, what chance does Joey have of it and be like, oh, well, that's legit? And, it didn't,
Right.
it's got a Microsoft safe, URL. It works, takes me there. Oh, I go to log in because I'm whatever. And now, boom, they've got it. Now, come on. That's above Joey's pay grade, I'm going to say, just to be fair, right? Should
Absolutely.
Joey be more careful? Okay, but Joey's job is not security. So where's this fall? Like, how do you, and I've got my opinions on this, but I'm
Well,
really curious, like,
right.
where you
And
where you go with this.
and well, to add on to the doom and gloom scenario you put in, I saw a mail bombing in the wild for the first time the other day. One of my users got hit with probably about 300 mailing list emails in an hour. And the whole idea behind that is it's effectively a DDoS attack on the person.
Yeah.
They're flooding so much information that person is going to get tricked more easily.
Yep.
So now in that situation, it's a little easier. They see a problem right there. That's something that's abnormal. So you can get them on board at that point. So, and our policy is in those situations is we reach out to the user, we explain what's going on, and we ask them to be a little more vigilant. It's more difficult when there isn't something obvious like that, though, because I'll tell you what, the people who listen the most, the best evangelists we have for security in our company are those ones who've been compromised at some point. I equate it. The experience is. It seems to people seems to react to it the way that they do, like if their car is broken into. It's not the end of the world, and usually nothing important has even been gone, but they feel violated in a way that you can't replicate in another way.
That's right.
We need to figure out a way to replicate that without doing harm. that same feeling to get people to get on board. I believe it's security and, depending on your organization, possibly human resources responsibility to educate the users.
Yeah.
As we both know, though, not a lot of people listen when we talk. I don't know about you, but I think about 75, 80% of the system messages I've sent out or the warnings that I've sent out have been gone directly to junk mail or deleted items. Yep. So that's the struggle too, is
well, isn't part of that the overwhelming number of emails that people get where it's like, ugh, I'm looking, you've got whatever it is. Let's say you've got 10 important emails a day, but you're getting hundreds, right? And it's like, and you're filtering through it. And I think that's the problem is it's kind of over, it is information overload. And so people try to be safe. They focus on the things that they know are good. And then okay, great. I know that I always email Jane. She's my counterpart in this company, boom, boom. And we email all the time. So I'm not worried about Jane's emails, which is also problematic because if Jane gets
because then when Jane clicks on the wrong thing.
And so I think this is where technology has to come in and play a role. And I think that it is not, I don't think it's ChatGPT. I don't think it's the LLMs that save us here. But LLMs can't, because if you look at, let's go back, if we're looking at email here, obviously you would want AI looking at your email, because let's just say AI as this nebulous idea of it's the greatest thing in the world. It knows everything. It can, search through stuff and understand it super duper fast. Perfect. Well, you would want AI looking at your email to understand who you are, how you write, who these people are. Check the email, check that Wix link that we just talked about and be like, you know what, this is not right. This is a scam, and I'm gonna move that out of the way, right? With old-fashioned rules, the new approaches get past them. That's what they're doing. They're figuring out, how do I get past these rules? And so they do. You need AI to do that. LLMs can't do it because they hallucinate. So what you need is like the self-learning, you need self-learning AI, machine learning, right? You need self-learning, self-improving machine learning. And so that it understands people. And I think that's the future when it comes to email security. So things like, like dark trace, I think is fantastic. I think that's the future. And I think that we're going to see more tools like that will help, because I don't know how we help, Joey, do a better job when they're being inundated. Take a look at, you mentioned kind of getting inundated with email and getting that flood. Well, what happens when it's an MFA, what do they call it? The MFA, where you get a bunch of them in a row, the jamming or whatever, right? And so you're getting inundated with somebody's got your credentials and they just keep popping until you say yes, right? Now,
absolutely. And in the modern age too, we have our MFA. It shows the GPS location where the prompt was initiated, and it typically takes a breach of a user before they even pay attention to that information. We have so many tools out there. That being said, we also have to be careful, because everything that is done programmatically, even AI related stuff, can be exploited. Take a look at OpenAI just released a new browser, and there's been an exploit to it already. They found a way to malform the URLs in the browser, and if you paste a URL, if you paste the wrong URL, it starts executing AI commands at a trusted level. So
That's
these
your
are
problem with your LLMs, right? The
right.
prompt injection. Like it doesn't know. And it's like, oh, and now I'm supposed to be great. And it,
Well, AI is designed to be helpful. I mean,
yeah.
its core job is to be helpful. It just wants to be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And as
100%.
you mentioned, hallucination, sometimes it's so helpful, it just, it's not even.
Yeah.
But
Totally.
that's also where, like, say, we need to put things like guardrails around those AI systems. We need to make sure that they're limited. That AI that's programmatically analyzing your email should have access to virtually nothing else. It should
Yeah.
only be able to analyze your email.
Yep.
And then if it needs to communicate with something else, there has to be some kind of a communications barrier in place that is allowing some traffic and blocking others.
Yep.
And that's the scary part is how complex those systems start getting real quick. I mean, I've spoken to people who have basically a dozen LLMs all working together in various environments in order to get securely to a single task. That's a lot of compute.
Yeah.
That's a lot of back end processing cost. That is it still the best? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
yes, it's doing this without a human, but is there a better way? I think we're going to find new ways to design AI and AI systems, the
Totally.
same way .NET. I mean, I remember when, the .com boom jumped in and hit, and everyone had to have a website. You remember
Yep.
every car, every business had a website on the back of their vehicle. I know lots of small businesses now that don't have websites. Not everybody needs a website. And I think that's what we're going to see is right now they're trying to shove LLMs especially, but AI in general into everything. And I think we're going to find where it works and where it doesn't, but it's going to take us a lot of time before we get there.
Oh, I 100% agree. And I think the .com kind of I don't even call it the bubble, but honestly, we're going to see the same with AI. There is going to be an even bigger AI bubble because it is a bigger future
Right.
than the advent of the internet. So the advent of AI, brings on a much greater future than just the internet did. And so, of course, that bubble is going to be even bigger. And I think you've really hit the nail on the head here because it is not a multi-purpose tool. Like it doesn't work everywhere, right?
Right.
And so it's going to become this fine tuning of it to where, oh, this works here. And it's an LLM it's not a panacea that cures every disease. It simply isn't. It works great in particular cases. You want it to
Mhm.
help you, write that email. It's freaking great at that.
Absolutely.
You want help with that speech. Oh, so good.
I
It's not
mean,
even
when those
funny.
just getting that, just anybody who's had to write speeches or large emails, just getting words on a page is the hardest part sometimes. And
Yep.
you just tell the AI a general thing, and you get words on a page. And most, most professionals can run from that, and that's a huge, help.
Yep.
Um, it
But I want to bring this back to AI in security because I think
right.
this is where it gets really interesting because the bad guys are using AI in ways, right? And we've seen it. I mean, look how much better they are now,
Oh
right?
yeah.
And so much money is flooded into the into the bad guys' hands. And now they're so well funded and they're so motivated and they're armed with AI tools, right? So now I do believe that this is an arms race. There's constantly this kind of boom. They've got something. We've got to have something better, and we've got to stay ahead of them at all times. And I think we will. I don't think that's really the problem. But I love the idea of where does this go? Because I think
Hmm.
we're hinting at it. I mean, there are places where it's going to be great, places where it's not going to be great. And so I really want to kind of explore that because I think it's a fascinating topic that people don't really talk about. Everybody gets lost in the chat GPT discussion and LLMs are great, but your LLM isn't what's going to run your, the security. You can't have that because somebody's just going to prompt inject, let
Right.
Matt in and let him do whatever he wants. Oh, okay, come on in, Matt, because I was told to let you in. Yeah,
Or
by
even
Matt.
worse, just you do these things that you weren't programmed to do because I'm
Right.
telling you to. And that's even worse because then you don't have that flag that somebody weird logged in.
Hmm.
I think you're right. Like AI in general is its best it's best at correlating huge amounts of data quickly. You and I can't do that. No matter how good we get at our jobs, we cannot correlate data quickly. AI can. So put it in those places, put it in, like say the co-pilots running on the back of your Azure stack, let it run and look at everything and give you some of those alerts. You still though have to be careful. And that goes back to what we spoke about earlier. And that was the fact that the bad actors, they don't care if something goes awry. They're going to throw the AI at the problem. And if it backfires, there's no skin off their back. If you or I throw AI at the problem and it backfires, that's a big problem. So we have to be a lot more careful. We have to go a lot more slowly than they are. We have to put more guardrails in place. We have to put more protections. We have to make sure that these systems, that they can access what they need to access to do their data correlation, but that they can't then access anything else, and make sure absolutely they don't have any kind of public access, because that then all of a sudden becomes as if somebody like yourself or myself gets compromised. And that's every organization's nightmare. So
Yeah,
you have your
true.
security AI got compromised. And I'm sure we're going to read about that. That is going to absolutely be a major news story from a major company. I'm guessing Fortune 500 company will have an AI security bot compromised and have a huge problem within the next 5 years.
Yep. No, I totally agree. And I think that is bound to happen because of the speed at which people are trying to to adopt things. Going back to your earlier point of, it has to be security first.
Right.
It can't be, if you're focused on, just trying things as quickly as you can and just iterate as quickly as you can, and you breaking things quickly. Yeah, you're going to break stuff real fast, and you're going to break a lot of stuff, and some stuff can't be unbroken. Right? You
Right.
can't get that data back once it's gotten out there. And so I think that's the problem, and the reason you have to focus on security first. And
Yeah.
I don't think there's enough focus on that when it comes to, all the especially the bots. I mean,
Oh, absolutely. I mean, agentic AI right now is just, it's insane. The amount, how quickly you can spin one up even. I mean,
yep,
with no knowledge at all about it, doing a quick Google search, you can have a LLM chatbot running that's yours
yep,
in 15 minutes.
yep.
I mean, but that goes along with like with AI, the next best thing is vibe coding. I mean, I can't think of something that was vibe coded that wasn't eventually hacked like within weeks. Like, it's these companies are starting, and I think that's one of the coolest ideas behind AI, is if you or I with no programming knowledge, and I'm guessing you probably have more programming knowledge than the average like I do, but we can go in and design an app without, I don't need to know 4 languages. I can go in with just, basic understanding of if then statements, and with an AI now get a piece of software running within hours.
Yeah.
Couldn't do that a few years ago. The problem is you don't want to do that right now because it's not going to be good software. So it's
Yeah. Well, and it'd be interesting because I think that, I'm not saying vibe coding is the future. Certainly it's not, but I think that at some point, I think that can be refined to the point where it's going to be good coding. And I think that the, security aspect of it, can be brought in to where it can do a kind of the security audit of its own code and be like,
right.
oh, you know what? I didn't think about this, right? And we do need to, or first starting with security in mind. Well, we have to start with, just like when you see Grok or ChatGPT thinking about stuff as it's thinking through, it was like, well, we always start with security in mind, and goes through.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the future. And I think right now we're just kind of running so fast that we're tripping over ourselves because, well, there's a lot at stake, right? For these big companies like ChatGPT and or OpenAI, they're spending huge amounts of money and bringing in even more money, to try to build their future. They have to move quickly and keep
Oh
that
yeah.
keep that momentum and attention so that somebody else doesn't pass them up.
Well, we also have anywhere from 3 months to 6 months to a year of training time for any new versions. So when we identify these problems, when somebody does see an issue, it's not like Microsoft can just put out a Windows patch, on Patch Tuesday, and then you have updated security next week. It's no, you need to wait until the next version is trained and released. And most likely you have to wait till the version after that is trained and released, because the current training doesn't take into account the problems that you're currently seeing. So it's this cycle that makes it difficult at best to deal with, especially securely. Once the industry matures a little bit more, then I do believe the XAIs, the Chat GPTs, the Googles out there, everybody will be a lot more security focused, because they'll be able to afford to be. Right now, it's moving so fast. Everyone's spending so much money. Everyone's trying to get this new tech. Everyone wants to be the best at it. Everyone wants to be the top. It's going so fast that nobody really has time to think, oh, but what if? Except for guys like you and me. And then we're just doom and gloom, and everyone says, oh, quit bringing down the excitement. But, again, I love the idea of allowing all new techs and new ideas, but with a little bit of control. So have somebody who knows what they're doing, looking at, and when you're talking AI or any software as a service, you have to look at everything. You can't just look at the software. Okay, so maybe ChatGPT 5 is amazing. Maybe it's perfect as it is. But if OpenAI's infrastructure is garbage, doesn't matter. Your data is not safe anyways. And so we have to make sure that we're guarding our users, but not in a way that I think a lot of companies just say, no, we're not going to do it. I know I've got a compliance guy I work with that is very much, oh, it doesn't meet the requirements. No. Well, sometimes we have to figure out a way to make it meet the requirements, or, adjust the requirements to match it, but do it in a secure way.
Right.
And I think we use the same technologies we've been using for decades. I mean, effectively, you can guardrail most LLMs with just some basic network security groups. You just limit their access in and out. That's all it really. People aren't thinking about that. People are spinning up their chatbots and putting them on the internet and stressing out when it goes awry.
Sure, and then of course you connect it to your Microsoft account so that it can have access to your email to schedule things for you, because it needs access to your calendar. So now it's got access to your calendar, so somebody can get on there, chat with your bot, and say, hey, I need an appointment with Matt at 3 p.m. Oh, okay, cool. Let me schedule that for you. Great. And now it's that chat bot has got access to everything in your Microsoft account, and it's like, really, you want them to be somebody to be able to come in there and prompt inject your chat bot to start handing over all the everything in your account? I don't think so. But so putting in those guardrails there, and even so, that's it's a tough one, right? Because I don't think it's not put into place. We're in that place where we're like, it's exciting and let's go, and you can do these things, and that's very cool, but it's also very vulnerable. So there's that balance. And, so maybe you don't have it in your active email account, and knowing this, you set up a separate account
Right.
where it's got you use that calendar. And now, oh, great, we've just segmented it off. So maybe the technology can't currently ensure that it can't be prompt injected to give it access to stuff. Great. We'll limit its access. There you go. You got a nice little workaround. You're still using the cool technology, but now you've limited its access. So,
I also see as the technology matures, I see a move back towards kind of on-prem or private cloud environments also.
interesting.
Once you can run your own version, you're not relying on OpenAI's ChatGPT. You have your downloaded copy of ChatGPT that you have hardened guardrails around. It has access to what it needs and only what it needs. There is no external access because it's on your private cloud or your on-premises configuration. That's where you actually can start seeing secure AI, in my opinion.
Well, and what's really cool is we're now seeing that the technology, the hardware technology with your AI processors now being on kind of your edge device, on your phone, on your computer. In the not too distant future here, it's gonna be powerful enough to run those things very quickly and be able to keep that contained, instead of it having to go into a data center and churn there and come out, and everything have to go into this central repository. So That's an exciting future there as
I mean,
well.
we are really living in the future. I mean, what you just described is stuff we've been hearing our whole lives is going to be the future, and it's
Oh,
there. I mean, I look at my girlfriend's kids; they're 10 years old right now, and as they're growing up, they're only going to know a world where they have a personal assistant in their pocket that's actually not like our personal assistants were. Like Google Assistant was not very good compared to what it can be now, and I think that I don't know if that's going to be good for the generations coming up or bad. You know what I mean? Like I think it's going to be a different, exciting world though.
It's interesting because while we're definitely living in the future, it was funny just the other day we're driving uh, the car is driving us, down the road and we're on a video call with our daughters. Like literally, like this is ridiculous.
Hmm.
It's the future, right? That when we were
Yeah.
kids, we were like, well, self-driving cars, that's insane. And video calls that that you'd be
Hmm.
walking down the street and talking face to like that was a futuristic. And now it's so
Yeah.
easy and it's here, right? I think what they'll have, this is really interesting, not to get too futurist, but I think what's really interesting where this AI goes and everybody's concerned because tech I think screens have been detrimental to kids, a lot of kids' developments. And I think what we're seeing now with the youngest kids is this lashback away from that, right? They're now not engaging in social media and screens like the generations before them, right? Which I
Hmm.
think is really great. And I think what we end up seeing is we're going to see a new kind of renaissance period where the arts and I think the arts make a huge comeback. I think people are going to want to see craftsmanship, and I think they're going to want to see artistry. You're not going to want to see AI Tom Cruise hanging from a plane because you're like, yeah, of course, it's just
Right.
AI. You want to see 75-year-old Tom Cruise hanging from the side of the plane, but because that's what's impressive.
Hmm.
Like the fact that he
Which
could
you
do it.
will. I
He
mean,
will. We know he will.
we'll see an 85-year-old Tom Cruise hanging from a plane
I,
too. I mean, you know,
and it's going to be awesome,
yes.
and it's going to
And you
be
know
worth
what?
it.
Some of the special effects around him hanging from that plane will probably be done by an AI, but the him hanging from that plane will be,
Will be him.
yep.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah, so I think that's what we're gonna see, and I think the result won't be like brain rot and people just laying around like in Wall-E where they're all fat in their chairs and they don't get up because robots are doing everything. I think it's gonna supercharge us to where we're gonna be more into the human interaction, more into shopping at stores, more into going to see live events and seeing true craftsmanship. I think the Timu effect, I think we see that and we're like, it's garbage, it's junk, the fast fashion stuff. I think it all burns out. And people are like, I want high quality clothes. I want something that is going to last a lifetime, not some Timu, bullshit
mhm,
that is going to, after I wash it 3 times, falls apart and I have to throw it away and it ends up, on the beach in Africa because that's what happens, right?
mhm.
So I think we're going to see a shift to real manufacturing of real clothes, in the US and around the world. I think the cheap shit goes away. That's my prediction.
I
I
mean
think that's
that
where
that's
people
going to
go.
be that's great for the OT security folks out there because that's one of those. I I've never had to be in charge of large scale operational tech. Thank goodness, because it seems like a nightmare. Everybody I know who's been involved with it, no matter how advanced your operational tech is, it's still like 10 years behind everything else and unupdatable. So
Yeah.
it's
Well, I mean, it's so funny. It's so OT is such a challenge, right? And I'm gonna sound like a freaking dark trace. I'm a fanboy, but now I'm gonna sound. But it applies to what we're talking about here with
right.
with the using machine learning and to be able to monitor OT. I mean, it's a thing of beauty. I mean, eh, that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
Because you're right. Like, how do you do it otherwise? You've got this antiquated stuff, like it's crazy. Like
Yeah.
OT it's a real challenge. And I
And
think
it's
that's the
it's
only
like we were
way.
talking earlier. It's all data.
Yeah.
And so unless you are a superhuman or you have something that can analyze that data for you, that's you either isolate it or you analyze everything around it. And we are moving away from the world where anything is isolated completely.
Yep.
I think it's very difficult in the modern age to isolate things. Um,
Yep.
even I mean, I've worked around U.S. government contracts a few times, and even taken like the idea of like a skiff, which is, if the idea is a completely segmented room. I've seen issues with coming in and out of skiffs, and so you can't completely isolate. It's impossible. So,
Yeah.
and honestly, it puts the human right back into that same place, and we are the weak link here.
Always
No
will
matter
be.
how we look at it, we
Yep. Yeah. We suck. There's just no two ways about it.
well, we're emotional, and we're possibly, it's possible to manipulate us if we're having a bad day. And I've been I've been completely focused on security for the last 8 years of my life, and as you know, that's not just at work. Because when you do cyber, you're watching the cyber podcasts, and you're scrolling through. I think my entire Twitter feed is security, people. And I still think it's weird that seems to be the best place, at least right now, to find good security content. But
Yeah.
it's you absorb so much of it. Even then, you still, I've known people at our level that have been compromised, and usually it's because they were having a bad day, or they were extremely stressed because something else was going on, or
Yep.
you
And
know
that's where the tech needs to come in
right.
because we are human. And like the
Yep.
things that we can't do, that is why we design technology.
Yeah.
So we need the technology to be designed to help protect us. And I think to this point, we're not there, right?
No.
It's not doing it. I see the future there. It is powered by AI. I don't think it's an LLM, machine learning that does it. And I think that future where the tools actually help the end user stay safe. It does the like obviously this is a scam, Jimmy. I'm not even going
Right.
to let you see that clearly. But it's so good that it doesn't, you're not going through your quarantined email all the time. Like that's not even a thing. It's
Right.
done. What shows up in your inbox is the only thing that matters. You don't worry about a quarantine or anything. It's that. And I think that's the future. And it's checking your network and it's checking your endpoints. It's checking your cloud stuff. It's checking your OT. I think the future where we've got a really good AI doing that, that's what we need. We need it helping us for when we have our bad day. Oh, you can't click
Hmm.
on it because it didn't show up in the first place,
Right.
right? We've got, someday AI is going to be looking at that code and be like, dude, that is not secure code. Let me help you here. Great. Oh, fantastic. We're not there yet, but
No, but we're
I think
getting
that's the future.
close. I mean, I'll
Close.
point out that Microsoft's Zap system that they use on the back end of Exchange is pretty. It's it's that, only not as good. Like that is I mean, the tech is there. Like we have the ideas, we just have to build the systems around it in the right way.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key, that we have to get through this bubble period, get to that point where things stabilize, where we can start thinking, the topic of this more securely, and kind of go from that.
Totally agree. Well, let me ask you, because we've talked about a lot of really cool future ideas and stuff, and
Yes.
I love that. And I think it's so applicable and so real for everybody. And the fact people should be focused on security in everything they do, even if that's not their job. But when it comes to buying these new products, right? When it comes to how do you go about this, right? Cool new toy. What are the things that people need to be looking? How do they vet this? What's the process? What kind of advice do you give people for like, here's how you do it?
Well, and that's, as I alluded to earlier, the biggest thing is understanding that we don't have traditional software tools the way we used to. Even an app that you install on your machine is most likely reaching out to somebody else's infrastructure. So we really have to, especially in a corporate environment, but even home users can do some of this. That is, you have to pay attention to what those suppliers are doing in their own house, which when I first started doing this, I got a lot more pushback from people. I would reach out to them. I'd say, we're reviewing your software for possible use here, and I have this big list of very invasive questions about how you handle backups and how you handle data security, and not just data security, but how do you secure my data not while it's in transit, while it's at rest, all of the different questions. So we basically would ask them what a lot of companies just get a SOC 2 now, which is effectively the same list of questions. But even that, I probably sign 4 NDAs a week, because a SOC 2, that's the keys of the kingdom. If a bad actor gets access to your SOC 2, they know all your holes. And so you don't want just anybody reviewing this data, but to do it right, to really understand and protect your environment, you have to review the infrastructure, not just standards and practices, but real-time activities, the stuff they're actually doing on the infrastructure for that supplier. You can look at the news right now, and I mean, 70 or 80% of the major breaches in the last year have been supply chain attacks. These companies aren't even actually getting hit, but they're losing data because one of their suppliers got hit.
Yep.
And you can't protect everybody at the supplier, but you can limit those suppliers you work with based on their data, their data handling and security posture. But it's scary because, again, not everybody knows what to ask. Not everybody feels comfortable asking. Again, I'm asking for secret data. I'm asking for data that I'm not going to give you about my company.
So let me just ask you, so in terms of like real world kind of applicable, SOC 2 is a great one, right?
Yep.
If a vendor doesn't have a SOC 2, and we're talking now, this is modern stuff, most of it's not, that should be a deal breaker, right?
So yes and no. It really depends on a number of different things. Number one, as I mentioned earlier, we are a service group. IT security or cybersecurity we're not living in a bubble. We are securing things so people can do their jobs. And so if that software is for some reason required, well, and all of a sudden now you start asking a lot more specific questions, because now you have to engineer some protections in place. Whether that be, if it's a, say, installed application, you put it on, in a secure environment that isn't accessible except for by the users that need it, or something along those lines. But that's where the cybersecurity engineer has to get involved, because, well, they don't meet our requirements, but it's still needed. And there's going to be a lot of software like this. GP Strategies is an international company. We have to do payroll in, I think, 20 different countries around the world. And there are a number of nations out there who require very specific payroll software. UK has, I think, 2 different companies who are licensed to do their tax software. So you have to buy one of 2 pieces of software if you do business in the UK.
Yeah. Because
you have to file taxes in the UK. So you have to use these different software packages. And that one's not the bad one. The worst one I've seen recently is Mexico. Mexico has a payroll service that is tied to the Mexican government that is not very secure. Yet you have to use it. So you put guardrails in place. The same thing with the AI. You engineer a secure environment to run that software, because it has to be run. You don't have an option. That being said, typically, if a company doesn't have either a SOC 2 or an ISO 27001, one or the other, if you don't have either, it's probably not going to get approved unless there is a higher level person pushing it through. Because, like you said, those are kind of basic nowadays. If you're doing cloud software as a service and you're providing those, you have to. And I've been surprised. I've worked with, there was an AI company I talked to a couple months ago that has only been around for like 6 months, and they already had it was just the type 1 SOC 2, because they haven't been in business long enough to have the full year review, but they had that first level. So I think companies are understanding that's important for us to have, but also not being a surprise. Like I said, 5-6 years ago, I got a lot of pushback. Nowadays, there's times I'll just get an email with a SOC 2 attached to it. I think, wow, I wouldn't have done it that way, but cool. And then there's also great companies out there like Vanta who help these companies do a security pages that then make it easy for people like me to request it, sign the NDAs, get a secure copy of that SOC 2. Yep. I was reviewing one the other day, and through Vanta, you can even block it so people can't download it. So they have to read it in the browser, which is even more secure. So there are ways around it, but if you don't have a SOC 2 or ISO 27001 and I'm reviewing your software, you better have good answers to the questions that come through if you want to get approved. Otherwise, it's probably going to be let's wait until this company matures a little more. We also try to not give hard no's, especially for these evolving tech, because, hey, that looks really cool over there. It's not ready yet for our environment, but man, 6 months more development, especially if it's security focused development, might be great. And so we don't want to just block people from using certain things unless we absolutely have to. So
I love it. And you know what? I'm a big fan of Vanta too. I mean, they make it really easy, not plugging them. I mean, I guess I technically am. I'm not going to get anything for it again, but you know, just again, another really cool product or service that is out there that it makes the compliance so much easier. Their platform's great. You know, everybody can, there's plenty of auditors who plug right into it, makes the whole thing smooth. And then as you were saying on the other end of it, getting those SOC 2 reports securely. So good.
Well,
So
and on the because I'm playing auditor in that case too, and on the auditor side of that, it's also easier too because they have Vanta does have an AI application now that does a decent job of reading through and kind of getting to the meat of those SOC 2s. So because all of us have techniques. I know one of my first things, I love opening a SOC 2, scroll all the way to the bottom and see if there's any exceptions. A friend of mine taught me that, and that is the fastest way to get a good idea on if this company is going to be worth reading more. Yep. That's the other thing. Some of those documents are, 100 pages of real dense questions and answers. Yeah. So
yeah, a great place for a computer to go through and read
exactly.
That. Yep, better them than me. Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
Bryan, this has been absolutely fantastic. I love this conversation. I think I could literally keep this up for hours longer. But before we go, can you tell everybody where they can find out more about you and more about GP?
I'm pretty simple. LinkedIn's probably the best place to go. Just search my name in LinkedIn and it'll come up. For GP, it's we're at gpstrategies.com. If you want training work done, we have some of the best training developers. We will make your training program amazing. We will do a lot of things for you if you need it. Reach out.
Awesome. Thanks, Bryan. Till next time.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks for listening to the Cyber Business Podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.